From the KIRO Radio Newsroom in Seattle, I'm Dave Ross, and these are the Ross Files. We're going to talk to a homeless person now. Although, do you consider yourself homeless? You're living in an RV, right?
Well, at first I didn't consider myself homeless, because, an RV is a home. It's a lot better than being right on the street, sleeping on the sidewalk. That's what I really consider homeless. But I'm considered homeless. We're
talking with Jeremy Booker. You're in a handyman service, basically. Yes. That's how you make your living. Yeah. And we're talking to him because you wrote me an email, a long email. What was it that you heard that made you want to write, first of all?
I just kept hearing different news medias, talking about the homeless. And a lot of it was always around drugs and alcohol and just like almost making it like it's just a hopeless situation. Like,
and you felt
it can never be helped or something,
They were talking about you.
Yeah. And so, right. It just felt like it was directed at me, And I thought, people need to see the other side, They need to talk to the homeless, and actually get to know us and find out where, how we've came to be this way,
Mm-hmm. So you are clean cut. You don't smell bad. You're shaven. You got a haircut. You're working.
Right.
Yeah. But you live in an RV.
Right.
Is it an old, ugly, disheveled RV? What is it?
No, it's a 92, and it's actually a camper that goes on the back of a pickup truck.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So it's a pickup camper. And do you have a legal place you can park now, or?
Well, it's a public parking.
Mm-hmm.
So
you're parking in a public place,
right? And so then, I just have to follow the public parking rules.
So you move it every 72 hours,
right? If it's in commercial or then 72 hours.
And if
it's a residential area, then we're restricted to 24 hours. So.
And this is in Seattle somewhere?
No, it's actually over in North Everett.
You're in North Everett.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing that that got me interested. It's the way that you were treated. Mm-hmm. So the reason you're in the RV is because you were living in an apartment in Linwood for something like $735 a month.
Yeah, it was pretty affordable,
Yeah, right. And then what happened?
I got involved with a girl, and she had gambling issues, and I tried to help her. And
the money disappeared.
And next thing you know, I'm racking up bills on credit cards and things such as that, and it just all went downhill from there.
You had to declare bankruptcy,
right?
So you can't get credit now.
Right.
And so how much rent do you think you could afford?
Well, I could probably afford what I was paying before, maybe a little bit more than that, something like that. But anything above that, I think, is just too much,
So you're trying to save money here, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you decided to get the old RV and park it where you could, and you found, and I'll just read from the note. This is what residents in the area where you were parked were doing. Mm-hmm. You write, well, they drive by honking their horns at all hours of the day and night. They yell profanities at me, throw trash out their windows at my RV. They even went as far as stopping and telling me that I do not have the right to park on the side of the road because I do not pay property taxes that pay for these roads. And this kind of treatment went on for how long?
Yeah, well, I mean, it still goes on.
It still goes on now?
Yeah, just recently. Last week, I had a guy come up. So they must be reading this stuff, I'm thinking, because they always say similar things. So they must be reading it or hearing it, from somewhere. And then they just, repeat it back to me about the property tax thing and that I have no right to be there.
What's the idea of throwing trash at you?
Well, I guess it's just to make a statement that they feel that you're trash, so they might as well just throw trash at you, like you're a dumpster or something,
And the honking was apparently to deliberately make sure you got no sleep?
Right, yeah, to disturb you and, make sure you don't get any sleep, maybe, and try to deter you from parking there because, you're going to want to move to a different location or something. Or that's what they hope anyways. But
to harass you out of the neighborhood, huh?
Right.
You, at one point, decided to follow one of the guys who was driving by every morning honking at you at 4 a.m.?
Right.
And what was that like? Did you finally confronted him?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. He actually didn't even want to get out of his vehicle, and he ended up going to his job, you know. I thought it was a church at first, because there was a sign in the driveway that said, something about a church. And I thought, what in the world, who's going to a church at this time of day? And, and why would somebody that goes to a church be acting this way,
Yeah.
So, anyways, but I confronted him and everything, and I wanted to find out why these people are honking,
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't have an answer for that. He just smiled, gave me a little smirk, and
that was it.
And then he rolled up his window, because he did roll it down, to initially talk to me. But once he realized what it was about, he rolled it back up, and he didn't want to speak to me anymore,
Have you tried that with anybody else?
There was one other person that I did the same thing. I followed them. They happened to go to their house,
Uh-huh.
So I asked him the same thing. He didn't have an answer. He just says that I don't pay property tax, and that he does, and that I shouldn't have to be there. He shouldn't be having to pay for me to be there, is how he sees it. Although I'm like a mile from his house, and I'm in an industrial or commercial zone. It's not even residential, so
yeah.
This idea.
Why don't you park in an RV park?
Well, I did look into that. When I called around, everybody, first thing they asked is what year it was.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I told them, they said, no, we don't accept anything older than 2008.
Oh, so just by virtue of the age of your RV, you are ineligible to park in a
Yeah. They didn't even
RV park.
Offer me the opportunity to send them a picture, bring it by so they could take a look at it, see that it isn't run down and garbage.
Yeah. Do you understand why people don't like the idea of a strange RV showing up in their neighborhood and staying there?
Well, yeah, people are afraid of the unknown, or what they don't understand. And so they don't understand why it's there. They don't understand why somebody would want to live that way. Well, it's not really so much of a matter you want to live that way.
Yeah.
Is it you have to live that way.
What would get you out of the RV?
Well, I'd have to work on my credit for one, because most places will not accept you without good credit.
Yeah.
My lifeline right now is my job.
Yeah.
If I had lost my job, I would be even worse situation.
Yeah.
And like a lot of these people that are homeless, and actually they may have still had a job when they went homeless, but once you become homeless, it's really taxing on your psyche and your emotions and everything. You get really depressed.
And there's no drugs involved here? You don't do drugs?
No, I don't do any drugs.
Do you have weapons?
Nope, no weapons.
So no drugs, no weapons. Not that that's a bad thing,
right.
Just in case the NRA is listening. So it's a matter of a credit check. That seems simple. Has does Everett have a navigation team like Seattle does? Does anybody come around and knock on the door and say, "Hey, we're from the government. We're here to help"?
Well, there was an officer that came by just recently, actually, after that one resident I was telling you about, the most recent one. I guess he complained to them, and they came by, and it was from an outreach team.
Uh-huh.
And he came by and he handed me a pamphlet. It talks about, like drug overdose.
You got it there?
Yeah, I have it here, yeah. It says, drug overdose, what you can do, so there's a lot of stuff about drugs, Well, that's not my issue, so I'm thinking, well, that's not going to help me.
What else does it say?
And then the other side, it just shows a whole bunch of other stuff, like housing, navigation, basic needs, services for street violence, general services, mental health.
You're not a victim of domestic abuse. You haven't got a drug problem.
Right.
You have a credit problem. Nobody offered to help you with that?
No, and I hadn't really had time to really look into this. I'm hoping,
Are you going to give it a try?
I would do that, yeah, and I plan on doing that. I just didn't have time to do it before the show here. So.
Now, in your letter, you said you'd given up on the Puget Sound or the Seattle area. You're going to move to Olympia. You still going to do that?
Yeah. My dad, I told him, what was going on and stuff, and he, I didn't really want to live on the property there at my dad's either, because he's going, through his own things. But he did talk to somebody from, his church, and they said they had an RV space, on their property that they would rent to me. So
you'll be paying rent,
right,
on the property of somebody who is okay to have you there,
right,
and presumably you'll be free of people honking at you and throwing trash.
Yeah.
So, having experienced this life, what do you think the solution is?
I think the first thing that they need to do is they need to talk to the homeless, and they need to ask them how they became that situation, what the issue is that's keeping them from being homed. That's the biggest thing. Just coming up and giving you a pamphlet and whatever, but don't have no background of what's causing the issue isn't really going to help anything. And like I say, because it's so depressing, it's so degrading to be in this situation, the homeless are not going to come to you and ask for help. It's, I don't. It's too embarrassing, You just, it's very, it's just really embarrassing, You don't want to be looked at that way,
I understand that.
Yeah.
Well, suppose if the city opened an RV park that took well-maintained RVs of any year, as opposed to an automatic cutoff at 2008, like the commercial ones do.
Right, yeah, that would be a great solution.
You'd park there?
I would.
You think a community like that would get along with each other, or would it be a den of thieves and drug users?
Well, I can't really speak for everybody, but from what I've seen of other RVers like me that are out there, I don't see all that going on. There's been only a couple of them out there that I've seen, and of course the police took care of those and they were gone. The ones that are usually out there for long periods of time, like me, I've been out there for a year and a half. We're still there because we're not doing anything illegal. We're not doing anything.
Really? So you think that the cops do a good job of getting the bad apples out?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So if they get any kind of word that something illegal is happening, they're right on it. So.
So you don't think Seattle and Everett have a lax attitude when it comes to, I guess, the charges that homelessness is enabled here? This is Freatle.
I'm going to figure that that they feel bad for the people, and they know that they're probably they're around them all the time, and so they know that they're probably not, that they're not bad people. They know, who they are, and so if they're not committing any crimes and they're not,
You think that's okay? If one day you finally get yourself into a home or in an apartment and suddenly a string of RVs show up and park in front of your building, people you don't know, you'd be okay with that?
Well, I don't know. That's one of the things too, is if RVs clump together, I notice people tend to look. They don't like that, if they feel like they're being in their neighborhood's being overtaken or something. So I've tried to tell other people, that have RVs to try to spread it out a little bit, like be the only one on that street or something. And if somebody else comes along, move along to somewhere else, so that we're not all clumped together, because that's what happened with me. I was on that street, and I was fine. Nobody bothered me. Nobody seemed to really mind too much when it was just me. And then all of a sudden, two other ones showed up, and then that's when things went crazy. So, and then of course, I moved along,
But do you understand that? Do you understand how that makes people feel insecure?
Yeah, well, and yeah, right. It's because they don't know who they are. They don't know, they they hear all this stuff about drugs and alcohol, and they think they're just, all those dens of, criminal activity, and that's what scares them, which I would understand that. I wouldn't feel comfortable with somebody like that, outside my place either.
Have you thought about just posting a little biography of yourself on the outside of your RV so that if people walked up, they could read, my name is Jeremy Booker. I work as a handyman. I don't do drugs. I don't have weapons. Maybe I don't want to say that part just in case it makes you a target. I don't know. Right. But I don't leave trash out. Any trash you may see here was thrown at me by somebody. Just something that introduces you to the neighborhood.
Right. And, I have actually thought about doing that, But on the other hand, I thought of the consequences, like you say. I may end up becoming a target, and people, I don't know what kind of reaction they would have over that, So that's what stopped me. I try to keep a low profile, like I say, I'm quiet. I keep to myself. I don't bother anybody, and that's the way I've been doing it, And I just feel like if I put a big sign out there or something, then that might create more attention on myself. So,
well, I think it's safe to say that most listeners, if they were here in the studio with me, would find you completely unthreatening, and probably if they knew it was you in the RV a block from their homes, they wouldn't mind. But I want to ask you, have you encountered, because it sounds like you've met a few of your fellow RVers, are there some bad dudes there that need to be taken off the streets?
Well, not really. I haven't really met any bad people. Like I said, there was some, but I didn't really meet them. They were there. They were kind of bad. There's
so you feel that most of them are like you?
Yeah. There was maybe one that might have had an alcohol problem, but he wasn't a bad guy. He wasn't violent. He wasn't, he was a very, nice guy.
So then it sounds like if I were a member of the navigation team trying to figure out how to get Jeremy Booker off the street, there'd be two things: fix your credit record and come up with a lot for RVs that were built before 2008. How long would it take you if you could find a place where you could just park and stay, which I guess you've now found in Olympia, but how long is it going to take before you've saved up enough money to put down a deposit on some proper housing and get off the street?
Well, if I was to park somewhere and it was free, I didn't have to pay anything, I guess it probably wouldn't take too long, especially, in my situation where I have a pretty good job. But if somebody else doesn't have a job or a lot of income, it's going to probably take them probably a couple of years,
Yeah. But you think you could get off the street in less than a year, you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah. If you have a good job. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And do the people you work for know that you're living in an RV?
No, I think there's only one that I've actually told, and I've had them for 11 years, so I know them pretty well.
You think it would be held against you, or make it more difficult to get work?
That's what I had feared, and I didn't want to even take that chance,
Well, why are you here then? And you're talking on the radio.
Well, right. I know. I know. And I thought about that too before I wrote you and everything. I thought, wow, I don't know if I want to put my name out there and stuff and let people know what's going on. But like I say, I'm already losing the customers here by having to move and relocate. Yeah. But I figure if it doesn't help me, I hope it's gonna help somebody else down the road, to see that we're not all bad people. We're not just out there just trying to commit all these crimes and stuff. Actually, we've had a lot of crimes committed against us.
Yeah. I'm aware of that. And how do you feel the news media has handled this situation?
Well, I don't know where sometimes they get their information. I know it seems like they want to lump everybody all into the same category. So, like the tenters and then the RVers, they're all lumped. Everybody's, all homeless are all together, We're all lumped into the same category, And so then people get this view that everybody, and then when you start talking about the drugs and the alcohol and the crime and all this stuff, then everybody starts lumping all that crime and, all that stuff. Yeah. With everybody that's
and the prolific offenders who keep getting arrested again and again.
Right. Yeah.
All right. So if I check back with you a year from now, you think you'll be in your own place somewhere?
Yeah, I might. It all depends on the prices too. And I don't know how much, how good the handyman service is over in that area either. I'm taking a risk there.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping to do it. Or that's going to work out, and then hopefully find some housing, and then get out of the RV for sure.
Well, good luck. I hope it works.
Yeah, thank you.
Jeremy Booker, who wrote me about his life as an RV inhabitant and is heading to Olympia. Please don't throw trash at him. Please don't honk at him and wake him up. He's just trying to earn a living. Now, do you like the media? Have I redeemed us at all?
Yeah, well, I do appreciate you taking the time to bring me here so I could speak out.
Well, I appreciate you coming in because I know it's not always easy. Right. Thanks very much. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
Remember that when there's a longer version of the interviews on Seattle's Morning News, you can usually find it right here in the original form, unconstrained by the limitations of a live broadcast. And you can subscribe so that when someone says, "Did you hear what was on Seattle's Morning News?" you can say, "Not only that, I heard the part that wasn't on Seattle's Morning News." So my advice is to subscribe. And then when we talk to an author, a politician, an entrepreneur, an artist, a scientist, a teacher, a journalist, a celebrity, you'll hear every word. I'm Dave Ross. Thanks for tuning in.